Over the last 25 years, the internet has changed everything, except the things that it hasn't changed. And one of those things is customers don't like bad experiences. Hi, I'm Doug Thomas. I'm a content designer on the Marvel team, and for years I've worked here in microlearning and video training. But once upon a time, long ago, if you said you worked in video, it had nothing to do with cameras or editing. I mean, unless you worked at a TV station, working in video meant this. You worked in video stores. And I certainly did. I mean, this was the time of Blockbuster and Hollywood Video. And there was also a lot of small independent stores. Those are the ones that I usually manage. They tried to do things differently, had better foreign film selections, tried to make it a more of a neighborhood area you want to hang out in. We did things, including like having the first espresso stand inside of a store in the state. We did. So I worked a lot with employees in both my store and other stores around. And a couple months ago, I came across some old paperwork, and it was a list of 10 great customer service rules or commandments. And I suddenly remembered I actually gave talks on this in front of this group of independent video stores. And one, memory is a weird thing. But two, as I looked at it, I realized something. And I have a theory that everything that you're going to learn here today with CX, metrics, design, all that stuff boils down to one thing: great customer service. We want people to come in, if they come through the front door or more likely through search, to get what they want, walk away happy, end of story. Great customer service. When I looked at this list of great customer service from decades ago, I realized that you can adapt many of these into good CX. So that's the theory I'm going with. Let's go in. And the first one is greet every customer. Now, this was originally greet every customer with a smile. I don't think I'd say that now. Greet every customer warmly, though. They have come into your place of business. Now, how does that translate to the CX world? Well, I think it does through our principles of voice. We want to be warm and relaxed, crisp and clear, ready to lend a hand. I mean, think about it. If you walk into a store and you're looking around, those are wonderful things. The tone they give us, that they're not wasting our time, that they're just getting what do you need, what do you want, and then if you want a hand, we'll be happy to I'll be happy to find you a movie. So that's the theory of looking at a rule and how it goes to CX. The next one is you're the company. This is huge for retailers. If a customer walks in and has a problem and is talking to you, you're more important than the owner. You represent the company. You are the company. And that's an important thing to remember as you're talking with customers, especially if you're dealing with problems. Now, translating that to the CX world, well, I see that as our standards of excellence. Our customers know Microsoft is this huge company with really deep pockets. They don't know anything about budgets. They don't know anything about things you can and can't do. They expect everything to be at a high level. Here's the example. Years ago, I started working on this webinar, and we were scrappy. We had no money, no budget. People will be okay if we just, plug in the recording that comes off, I think it was Skype for Business at the time, and put that up as a video. And we were wrong. Because the name Microsoft's on it, they wanted to make sure everything looked great. So we had to figure out how to do it. We didn't have the budget to go through the production, so we had to think things differently. And the solution for that was we just recorded the audio separately on a device that had really good audio and then spliced the two together in editing. So even though we have budgets, we got to make sure our stuff comes out because people expect a certain level, a high level of quality at Microsoft. Next is the customer is never an interruption. This was big, again, another big thing for customers and employees. And back then, the big thing was the phone. The phone was sometimes more comfortable to talk about than an employee, than a customer that was in front of you. The way I always told my employees to think about this is there are two customers. There's the one that walked into the store, and then there's the one that's at home that just called you. And I want you to picture the person that's at home calling you wearing a silk robe, their feet are up, they're outside, probably by the pool, and they've just poured themselves a very nice drink. And they thought, oh, as I settle in here, let me call my favorite video store. Put them on hold. Thanks for calling. Going to put you on hold. Talk to the customer that's in front of you. That's important. They've taken the time to come in. Hopefully they're not in a robe either. Most of the time that was the case. So how does that translate into the CX world? Well, don't monkey around with the customer. That's the way I look at it. That's one of the things we do. When you start reading, start fast. We're not doing long introductions. We're not in the video world. We did, 10 years ago, everyone was like doing these theme songs and all this stuff. Just get to the point. In video, the first 10 seconds are always the most important. That's why I recorded the front of this talk about 12 times until I got it, I hope, right. We're writing for scanning first and reading later. We're trying to not waste the customer's time. That's the way I look at this on the CX world. State things in a positive manner. Be careful of humor, retorts. The only two times I got written up, for lack of a better term, was when the customer didn't understand I was joking with them. So I made sure after that, every time I said a joke, I would laugh out loud or wink, wink, nudge, nudge, just something so they knew I was joking. That's why I use a lot of emojis when at the end of sentences when I write email even. Now, how does that mean in the CX world? Go see Jonathan's talk about You're Not Funny. I've worked with Jonathan for several years. He was my manager. We did humorous video, but we had to have a pretty high bar for that because for the most part, you're not funny. The customer may not always be right. This is the slide I spent the most time on. A little background. There was a store, a huge furniture store named Levitt's, and they had a huge budget because everyone knew their slogan, which the customer is always right. And I thought, that's not true. If a customer walks into the place and says, that sofa that's $1,000, I'm going to call it a couch, and I'm only going to pay $100 for it. Now, you could debate the first part, we do in this household, but the second part is not debatable. I can't give you that couch for $100. That's not true. The customer is not right. But the way I look at this is the customer may not always be right, but the customer is always the customer. Be a good listener. Hear their complaints. Avoid arguments. Find a solution is the way I talked about it when you're dealing with customers. We want to be authentic, but we should never lose sight of the relationship we have. We're Microsoft, they're the customer, and we should treat them that way. It's almost a contract of how you work with customers. Now, the way I think about it is, well, some of it's dealing with definitely with language. And one of the things is, for help and how to, I will not use the words simple or easy ever. Just because something seems simple doesn't mean it is, especially for people who come to a help topic. Thank the customer. Well, in retail, that was really easy. Make sure everyone, just like you would greet somebody, make sure they're thanked on the way out. In CX world, well, this is just going to be a commercial for making sure you do the customer-driven stuff. Coffee with customers, you see those emails once a month, sign up for them. I'm trying to do at least once a quarter. I've done a couple coffees with customers. I led one table one time. It was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be, but to hear from customers directly is important. There's an old adage that as soon as you walk into a company, you're no longer the customer and you're moving farther and farther away. So to get these types of abilities, connects more than any verbatim or any metric you're going to see, is to hear from customers directly. And one of the important things is after that time is to make sure you thank them. Be gracious because they're taking their time to help us. Remember your support staff. Again, in retail world, it was always, this is a team here. There's people here usually. If a customer has a problem, You can try to find a solution. If it gets elevated, that's why the manager's there. That's my job to handle those people. So send them to me. Don't have to deal with that. You know, one thing that the pandemic has really showed me is we rely on each other more than I think we ever have. I miss the physicality of actually rolling up your sleeves and walking into someone's office and helping them. But I've seen more and more that we've helped each other online. Nothing to remember here, just keep doing what you're doing. Unless you're not doing it, then make sure you start doing it. Cliche, yeah, that's pretty much cliche. But in the CX world, I'm going to use it a different way. I'm actually going to think of a mile as a distance, as a point A to point B that a customer is trying to get when they come in to an article, or they're trying to figure out how to do something. We want them to go straight. We don't want them to have turns and alleyways. Single intent. If there's 3 ways to do something, we're going to tell them once. Yes, I know there's 3, but they're just trying to get something done. And then for that extra mile, in video we call fries. You want fries with that. Get them the main thing that they want. And then at the end, when if they're still reading, or still scanning, you can find them some more interesting things that they can talk about or do next. So that's the way I look at go the extra mile. I'm not going to go through all 10. I did include, if for some reason you want to see what the original 10 were, it's in the deck. I don't think you need to see them, but no, this was an actual physical slide, a clear piece of plastic. That's the way we did things back then. You got these clear slides and you made copies and you put them on an overhead projector. That's why they're called PowerPoint slides, because at one point they were physical slides. Things have changed over the years and things have improved. And one thing that hasn't changed is customers like having a great experience. So I hope you have a great time at CX Day learning great CX so our customers can have a great experience. Thanks.